Our story begins with a young man named Joseph. He was the 11th of 12 sons, but he was his father, Jacob's favorite. To show his affection, Jacob gave Joseph a stunning, multicolored coat. This coat wasn't just a fashion statement. It was a symbol of his father's special love, and boy, did his older brothers notice. They were already jealous, but this gift pushed them over the edge. To make matters worse, Joseph had a couple of dreams. In the first one, he and his brothers were bundling sheaves of grain in a field. And suddenly, his sheaf stood upright, while his brothers' sheaves gathered around and bowed down to it. In the second dream, the sun, moon, and 11 stars were all bowing down to him. Now Joseph wasn't exactly subtle about sharing these dreams. He told his brothers, and as you can imagine, they didn't take it well. They thought, who does this kid think he is? Are we really supposed to bow down to him? Their jealousy turned into deep-seated hatred. One day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers, who were tending the flocks far from home. When they saw him coming from a distance, they saw their chance. Here comes the dreamer, they sneered. Their dark thoughts quickly turned into a deadly plot. They planned to kill him and throw him into a pit, then lie to their father and say a wild animal got him. But the oldest brother, Reuben, had a flicker of conscience. He suggested they just throw Joseph into an empty cistern instead, secretly planning to come back later and rescue him. So, when Joseph arrived, they ripped off his beautiful coat, the very symbol of their resentment, and threw him into the pit. While they sat down to eat, they saw a caravan of traders heading to Egypt. Judah, another brother, came up with a new plan. "What do we gain if we kill our brother?" he asked. "Let's sell him to these traders." It was a cold, calculated decision. For 20 pieces of silver, they sold their own brother into slavery. They then took the coat, dipped it in goat's blood, and presented it to their devastated father, Jacob, who believed his favorite son was dead. Now, imagine being Joseph. One moment you're your father's favorite, the next you're a slave in a foreign land. It would be so easy to fall into despair, to become bitter and angry at God and the world. But Joseph's story takes a different turn. In Egypt, he was bought by Potiphar, the captain of Pharaoh's guard. And here's where we see the first glimmer of hope. The Bible says, "The Lord was with Joseph." Because of this, everything Joseph touched prospered. Potiphar saw this and was so impressed that he put Joseph in charge of his entire household. From a slave, Joseph became the manager of a powerful official's estate. He was trusted, respected, and successful. But Joseph's trials were far from over. He was a handsome young man, and Potiphar's wife noticed. She repeatedly tried to seduce him, but Joseph was a man of integrity. He refused, saying, "How could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" He was loyal to Potiphar, and more importantly, to God. One day, she became more aggressive, grabbing his cloak and demanding he lie with her. Joseph fled, leaving his cloak in her hand. Humiliated and furious, she twisted the story. She accused Joseph of trying to assault her, using his cloak as evidence. Potiphar was enraged. Joseph, the man he trusted completely, was thrown into prison. Think about this. He did the right thing, and his reward was a prison cell. He went from being a favored son to a slave, then rose to a position of power, only to be cast down into the darkest of dungeons. This is where most people would give up. Where was God now? Why would he let this happen to someone so faithful? Yet, even in prison, the story repeats itself. The Lord was with Joseph. He found favor with the prison warden, who soon put him in charge of all the other prisoners. Just like in Potiphar's house, Joseph's leadership and administrative skills shone through. While in prison, Joseph met two of Pharaoh's former officials, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker. One night, They both had troubling dreams and were distressed because no one could interpret them. Joseph, confident in God's power, said, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me your dreams." The cupbearer dreamed of a vine with 3 branches that budded, blossomed, and produced grapes. He squeezed the grapes into Pharaoh's cup and gave it to him. Joseph interpreted this to mean that in 3 days, the cupbearer would be restored to his position. The baker dreamed he had 3 baskets of bread on his head, and birds were eating from the top basket. Joseph's interpretation for him was grim. In 3 days, he would be executed. Everything happened exactly as Joseph had predicted. Before the cupbearer left, Joseph made one simple request. "When all goes well with you, remember me and show me kindness. Mention me to Pharaoh, and get me out of this prison." But the cupbearer, once he was free and back in his comfortable position, forgot all about the man who had given him hope in the dungeon. 2 more years passed. 2 more years for Joseph, languishing in prison, forgotten. Then, Pharaoh himself had 2 disturbing dreams. In the first, 7 fat, healthy cows came out of the Nile, followed by 7 ugly, skinny cows that ate the healthy ones. In the second, 7 full heads of grain were swallowed up by 7 thin, scorched heads. Pharaoh was deeply troubled, but none of his magicians or wise men could interpret the dreams. It was only then that the cupbearer's memory was jolted. He remembered Joseph told Pharaoh about the Hebrew prisoner who could interpret dreams. So, Joseph was quickly brought out of the dungeon, cleaned up, and stood before the most powerful man in the world. Pharaoh told him the dreams, and Joseph, once again giving credit where it was due, said, "I cannot do it, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires." Joseph explained that the 2 dreams meant the same thing. God was revealing what he was about to do. There would be 7 years of incredible abundance throughout Egypt, followed by 7 years of devastating famine. The famine would be so severe that the years of plenty would be completely forgotten. Joseph then offered a practical plan. Pharaoh should appoint a wise and discerning man to oversee the land, collect 1/5 of the harvest during the good years, and store it up for the famine to come. Pharaoh was blown away by Joseph's wisdom. He looked at his officials and said, "Can we find anyone like this man? One in whom is the Spirit of God." Pharaoh didn't just take Joseph's advice. He appointed Joseph to carry it out. He made Joseph the second most powerful man in Egypt. At 30 years old, Joseph, the betrayed brother, the slave, the forgotten prisoner, was now the vizier of Egypt, second only to Pharaoh. He was given Pharaoh's signet ring, fine linen robes, and a gold chain. The boy who was thrown into a pit was now riding in a chariot with people shouting, "Make way." Before him, the 7 years of abundance came just as predicted. And Joseph managed the storage of grain with incredible foresight. Then, the 7 years of famine began. It wasn't just in Egypt. It spread to all the surrounding lands. But thanks to Joseph's plan, Egypt had food. People from all over the world came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph. And this is where the story comes full circle. The famine was severe in Canaan, where Jacob and his sons lived. Hearing there was grain in Egypt, Jacob sent 10 of his sons to buy some. He kept his youngest son, Benjamin, at home, fearing he might lose him too, just as he thought he had lost Joseph. When the 10 brothers arrived in Egypt, they came before the powerful vizier to request food. They bowed down before him, their faces to the ground, and there it was. The dream from all those years ago had come true. Joseph recognized his brothers immediately